Zara Washington held her breath as the transport ship shook during its final descent to New Harvest. Through the small round window, she could see green fields spreading out like a patchwork quilt across the planet's surface. This farming colony was about to become her new home if anyone would have her. Unlike the other women on the bride transport, Zara wasn't running from poverty or searching for adventure. She had been a respected scientist once, a xenobotanist studying alien plant life. That was before the accident, before her skin had changed. She glanced down at her hands. The skin was smooth but completely black. Not brown, not dark, but truly black like the night sky without stars. The medical reports called it a side effect of exposure to alien plant enzymes during her research. The doctors had assured her it wasn't harmful, just permanent. The ship landed with a gentle bump and the cabin filled with the excited chatter of 30 women preparing to meet their future husbands. Zara remained quiet as she gathered her single bag. Inside were her clothes, personal items, and a hidden data chip containing her research, the work that had been buried after her accident, when her rivals had used her changed appearance to push her out of the scientific community. "Ladies, welcome to New Harvest," announced the transport captain over the speakers. "The matching ceremony will begin in 1 hour. Please prepare yourselves and remember your contract obligations." Zara followed the others down the ramp and into the colony's welcome center. The building was simple but clean, with large windows overlooking the settlement. Farm equipment moved in the distance, tending to vast fields of crops both familiar and alien. In the preparation room, women rushed to mirrors, fixing hair and applying makeup. Zara stood back, knowing no amount of preparation would hide her difference. Her black skin absorbed light in a way that made her stand out no matter what she wore. She had chosen a simple blue dress, hoping it might draw attention away from her unusual appearance. "First time off-world?" asked a friendly voice beside her. Zara turned to see a blonde woman smiling at her. "No," Zara replied. "I worked on 3 research colonies before this." "Research? So you're not really a bride candidate?" The woman looked confused. "I am now," Zara said quietly. Things change. A bell rang, and an official in a crisp uniform entered the room. "Ladies, it's time. You'll each be called by your registration number. When called, please enter the main hall where the men have gathered. Remember, final selection is their choice, but you may decline one match without penalty." One by one, the women were called. Each time the door opened, Zara caught glimpses of the crowded hall beyond, men in work clothes and suits, scanning the brides with hopeful eyes. Registration 2187, Zara Washington. Zara took a deep breath and walked through the door. The conversation in the hall dimmed immediately. She felt every eye turn to stare at her black skin. Some gazes held curiosity, others disgust, but most showed simple shock. She walked to the center of the room as instructed, standing on a small platform so everyone could see her. The matchmaker read from her file. "Zara Washington, age 29, Earthborn. Education includes doctorate in xenobotany. Health excellent except for cosmetic skin condition resulting from research accident. Classified as non-contagious and non-harmful." The silence stretched uncomfortably. Usually this was when men would approach with questions or interest. No one moved. "She's completely black," someone finally whispered, loud enough for all to hear. "Is it paint?" another asked. The matchmaker cleared his throat. "As stated, it's a medical condition from exposure to alien plant compounds. Perfectly safe." Still, no one stepped forward. Zara kept her chin up, though her heart sank. She had expected this, but experiencing the rejection still hurt. "Next candidate," the matchmaker called after an awkward pause. Zara stepped down and moved to the waiting area where matched and unmatched candidates sat. Hours passed as she watched other women meet their new husbands. Some left smiling, others looked nervous, but all found matches. By evening, Zara sat alone on the bench. The hall had emptied except for colony officials cleaning up after the event. The matchmaker approached her with an uncomfortable expression. "Ms. Washington, I'm sorry. To inform you, there's been no interest in your file. This happens occasionally, Program policy allows you temporary housing until the next transport returns to Earth in 3 weeks. Zara nodded, having prepared herself for this outcome. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity. As she gathered her bag to follow an official, to the temporary quarters, the main door swung open. A tall man with broad shoulders and weathered skin stepped into the hall. His clothes were expensive but practical, the outfit of someone who worked the land but did very well at it. Am I too late? He asked, slightly out of breath. The matching ceremony? The matchmaker looked surprised. Mr. Daniels, we didn't expect you. Yes, I'm afraid we've finished for today, but there will be another transport in 6 months. The man, Daniels, looked disappointed until his eyes landed on Zara. He stopped, staring at her unusual skin. Zara braced herself for another negative reaction. Instead, his eyes widened with what looked like recognition. You're Dr. Washington, he said, stepping closer. Zara Washington, who wrote Adaptive Properties of Non-Terrestrial Flora and developed the cross-pollination technique for Earth-alien hybrids. Zara couldn't hide her shock. You've read my work? Read it? I've based my entire operation on your research. He moved closer, studying her face with intense interest. You're the one who survived the Black Vine incident on Europa Station, the only human to ever have direct contact with Xenoflorus umbrisape in live. The matchmaker looked between them in confusion. You know each other? No, Daniel said, but I know her reputation. Dr. Washington's work revolutionized colonial agriculture before she disappeared from the scientific community 2 years ago. He extended his hand to Zara. Gregory Daniels. I own the largest experimental farm on New Harvest. Zara cautiously shook his hand. You recognize me even with... She gestured to her skin. Gregory's eyes lit up with scientific curiosity. Your skin. It's the Black Vine adaptation, isn't it? The xenobiological defense mechanism the plant triggered in your cells? That's not a defect, Dr. Washington. That's evolutionary advancement. For the first time since her accident, someone was looking at her with admiration rather than disgust. Why is a scientist of your caliber here as a mail-order bride? Gregory asked. Zara looked down. After my appearance changed, my funding was cut. My research was buried. No one would work with the alien woman, as they called me. Gregory shook, his head in disbelief. Their loss, he said firmly, then turning to the matchmaker. I'd like to register my interest in candidacy 2187. The matchmaker's eyebrows shot up. Mr. Daniels, while we appreciate your interest, I should remind you that matches require consideration of compatibility and... We're perfectly compatible, Gregory interrupted. We're both scientists dedicated to understanding alien agriculture, and I believe Dr. Washington might be the key to solving the hybrid crop failures we've been experiencing in the Eastern Quadrant. He turned back to Zara. That is, if you're interested in continuing your research while fulfilling the colony's marriage requirements. Zara studied him carefully. You want to marry me for my research? Gregory smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. I want to offer you a partnership, marriage on paper to satisfy colonial law, and scientific collaboration in practice, unless you'd prefer to return to Earth. For the first time in 2 years, Zara felt hope stirring inside her. I'd like to see your research facilities first, she said. Gregory's smile widened. Of course, scientific curiosity, another trait we have in common. As they left the matching hall together, Zara noticed the stares from colonists they passed. But walking beside Gregory Daniels, she found she didn't mind them anymore. Perhaps on New Harvest she would finally find a place where her difference was valued rather than feared. The next morning, Gregory arrived in a dusty truck to collect Zara from her temporary housing. When she climbed into the passenger seat, she noticed the vehicle was much more advanced than it appeared. Hidden screens and controls lined the dashboard. Most of my equipment looks ordinary on the outside, Gregory explained, seeing her interest. Keeps the traditional farmers from getting too upset about my methods. They drove for nearly an hour, passing endless fields of standard earth crops, wheat, corn, and soybeans that had been adapted for New Harvest soil. Most farms looked the same, with neat rows and automated harvesters moving slowly across the land. "Where is your farm?" Zara asked, noticing they were heading toward a distant line of trees that marked the edge of the settled area. "Just beyond the forest boundary. I bought land in the transition zone where the native plants begin. The colony council thought I was crazy." Gregory smiled. "They sold it to me cheap." As they passed through the tree line, Zara gasped. Unlike the uniform fields they had left behind, Gregory's land was a colorful patchwork. Earth crops grew alongside alien plants with purple leaves and twisted stalks. Yet instead of choking each other out, they seemed to be thriving together. "This is exactly what I theorized in my research," Zara said, leaning forward in her seat. "Complementary growth patterns between Earth species and compatible alien flora." Gregory parked in front of a large house built from local timber and modern materials. "Your research was the foundation for everything I've built here. When I heard a xenobotanist was coming as a bride, I had to meet you. But they wouldn't tell me who it was." He led her past the house to a large greenhouse built against the hillside. Inside, rows of workstations held plant samples, computers, and testing equipment. "This is better than the lab I had at Europa Station," Zara admitted, running her hand over the advanced soil analyzer. "And now it's yours to use," Gregory said. "I've been trying to perfect hybrid crop strains for years, but I've hit a wall. I know the theory, but you've actually done the practical work." Zara looked up at him. "And that's why you want to marry me? For my expertise?" Gregory leaned against a counter. "New Harvest has strict laws. Only married couples or blood relatives can share property rights. If you work here as my employee, any discoveries would belong to the colony government. As my wife, your work remains ours." "That's practical," Zara said. "I'm a farmer at heart," Gregory replied. "We tend to be practical people." He paused. "But I also want you to know that I don't care about your skin color. If anything, I find it fascinating." Zara had heard similar words before, usually from people who saw her as a curiosity rather than a person. But Gregory's tone was different, respectful, not objectifying. "My skin is a constant reminder of my biggest failure," she said quietly. "I was careless in my research. It nearly killed me." Gregory stepped closer, examining her face with scientific interest. "But it also made you unique. Your body adapted to alien biochemistry instead of rejecting it. Do you realize what that means? You're not just a scientist. You're a breakthrough." For the first time since her accident, Zara felt her unique appearance, celebrated rather than shunned. "The colony administrator can perform a basic marriage ceremony tomorrow," Gregory continued. "Nothing fancy, just the legal minimum. After that, you'll have residency rights and access to all my facilities." "And what do you expect from me as a wife?" Zara asked directly. "Your expertise in the lab and fields. Help with my current projects." Gregory rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly looking uncomfortable. "As for living arrangements, the house has 2 wings. You'll have complete privacy." Zara considered his offer. Return to Earth where her career was ruined, or stay and continue her research with someone who valued her mind regardless of her appearance. "I accept your proposal," she said, extending her hand formally. Gregory shook it, but his eyes showed relief. "Welcome to the family business, Dr. Washington." True to his word, the next day they stood before the colony administrator for a brief ceremony. No guests attended. The only concession to tradition was a simple band Gregory placed on her finger, made from local metal with swirls of blue mineral. "To make it official," he explained. Life quickly settled into a productive routine. During the day, they worked separately, Gregory managing farm operations while Zara focused on laboratory analysis of soil samples and plant specimens. In the evenings, they would meet to share findings over dinner, their conversations flowing easily between scientific topics. Zara found herself flourishing in this arrangement. Gregory's facilities allowed her to continue the research that had been taken from her after the accident. Unlike her previous colleagues, he never flinched at her appearance or treated her differently. 2 weeks after her arrival, Zara made her first breakthrough. She rushed from the greenhouse to find Gregory in the fields. "The soil bacteria," she called as she approached him. They're forming a communication network between the earth plants and native species. Gregory looked up from the plant he was examining. Like a translation system? Exactly. The bacteria take nutrients the alien plants don't use and convert them for earth crops. In return, our plants provide compounds the natives need. Her eyes shone with excitement. It's a symbiotic relationship we can enhance. Gregory's face broke into a wide smile. That's why the eastern section is thriving while other farms struggle. Their sterilization methods kill these helper bacteria. Together they walked the boundary of their property, looking at neighboring farms where earth crops struggled alone. The contrast with their own thriving fields was striking. "We should share this discovery," Zara said. Gregory's expression darkened. "I've tried sharing my methods before. The colony farmers are set in their ways. They don't trust anything that involves native species. But if we showed them the data, they won't listen," Gregory interrupted gently. "Especially not to—" He trailed off. "To someone who looks like me," Zara finished. "It wasn't a question. I'm sorry. The outer colonies can be even more close-minded than Earth." Zara stared across the fields, determination settling in her chest. "Then we'll have to make results they can't ignore." Over the next weeks, their partnership deepened. Gregory began bringing Zara along to community meetings, introducing her as Dr. Daniels, a title that still felt strange to her ears. The stares and whispers continued, but with Gregory beside her, Zara found them easier to bear. And something else was changing too. What had begun as a marriage of convenience was developing unexpected warmth. She noticed the way Gregory's eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking. Not with scientific curiosity now, but with growing admiration. For her part, Zara found herself watching for his return when he went to town, looking forward to their evening discussions that increasingly drifted from science to personal histories and dreams. One night, as they worked late in the greenhouse, their hands brushed while reaching for the same tool. Neither pulled away immediately. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken questions. "Zara," Gregory said softly, "I think our arrangement is changing." Before she could respond, the emergency communication system blared to life. The colony administrator's voice came through the speakers. "Attention all farmers. We have detected signs of a new plant blight spreading in the northern fields. All residents are required to attend an emergency meeting tomorrow at dawn." Gregory's expression grew worried. A blight could destroy half the colony's food supply. Or, Zara said, looking at their healthy hybrid fields, it could be the opportunity we need to show them a better way. Dawn arrived with a red sky, which the farmers of New Harvest took as a bad sign. Zara and Gregory joined the stream of vehicles heading to the colony center. The mood was tense, with worried faces visible through every truck window. "The blight has spread to 12 farms already," Gregory told Zara as they drove. "I checked the emergency reports this morning." Zara nodded, looking at the sample container she held carefully in her lap. Inside was evidence of their successful crop integration, healthy plant tissue that had resisted similar infections in their test plots. The meeting hall was packed when they arrived. Farmers stood in groups, their voices a low rumble of concern. When Zara entered with Gregory, several conversations stopped as people turned to stare at her black skin. "Ignore them," Gregory whispered, guiding her toward empty seats near the front. The colony administrator, a stern woman named Eleanor Powell, called for order. "As you all know, a new blight has appeared in the northern district. It spreads quickly and kills earth crops within days." She displayed images on the large screen. Once healthy wheat fields now covered in gray-green spots, corn stalks bent and withered. The damage was extensive. "Our scientists are working on a treatment, but it may take weeks to develop and test," Powell continued. "Until then, we recommend burning infected fields to prevent spread." The crowd erupted in protests. Burning fields meant losing entire harvests and the seeds for next season. "Do we know what caused this?" someone shouted from the back. Powell hesitated. "Initial tests suggest the fungus may have jumped from native plant species to our crops." All Eyes in the room turned to Gregory, known for his controversial integration of alien plants into his farm. Charles Warren, the colony's most traditional farmer, stood up. "This is what happens when we allow alien species to intermingle with Earth crops," he accused, pointing at Gregory. "Daniels has been playing with fire, and now we're all getting burned." His gaze shifted to Zara, his lip curling slightly. "Just like we shouldn't allow alien-contaminated people to infiltrate our community." The room fell silent at the thinly veiled attack. Gregory half rose from his seat, anger clear on his face, but Zara placed a hand on his arm. "May I speak?" she asked Powell, her voice steady despite the hostility directed at her. The administrator nodded reluctantly. Zara walked to the front, aware of every eye following her movement. She connected her data tablet to the display system. "My name is Dr. Zara Washington," she began. "I'm a xenobotanist who specialized in plant interactions before coming to New Harvest. And this blight is not caused by native plants contaminating Earth crops." She displayed microscopic images from her research. "It's actually an Earth-based fungus that's mutated in the local atmosphere. Your pure Earth crops are more vulnerable because they lack the adaptive properties that hybrid species develop." Warren scoffed loudly. "You expect us to believe someone who's been corrupted by alien biology herself? Look at her. She's hardly even human anymore." Several farmers nodded in agreement. Gregory stood. "Dr. Washington is more qualified than anyone here to understand this blight. Before her accident, she was the leading expert in cross-species botanical integration." "And after her accident?" Warren challenged. "She ended up as a mail-order bride. If she was so valuable, why didn't some research facility snatch her up?" Zara kept her voice level. "Because people fear what they don't understand. Just like you fear the native plants of this world instead of learning to work with them." She showed new images, pictures of her and Gregory's thriving fields where Earth and alien plants grew together. "Our farm has shown signs of the blight, too, but only in sections where we planted Earth crops alone. The integrated fields remain healthy." Whispers spread through the crowd. Powell studied the images with interest. "What are you suggesting, Dr. Washington?" she asked. "Don't burn your fields yet," Zara replied. "Give us 3 days to develop a treatment based on the natural immunity we've observed in the hybrid crops." Warren laughed harshly. 3 days? The blight will have spread everywhere by then." "Better to lose some crops than burn everything," Gregory argued. "What do you have to lose by waiting?" The room divided into heated discussions. Powell finally raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Washington and Mr. Daniels have until sunset on the 3rd day to demonstrate a viable treatment. Until then, we'll establish quarantine zones around infected areas but delay burning. That's my final decision." As the meeting broke up, Warren approached them, his face tight with anger. "When this fails, both of you will be held responsible for every crop lost, and some of us will push to have you removed from the colony entirely," he glared at Zara. "Especially those who don't belong here in the first place." Back at their farm, Zara and Gregory worked without stopping. They converted the entire greenhouse into a research lab, analyzing plant samples and testing treatment variations. By the end of the first day, Zara had isolated the compound that gave hybrid plants immunity. "The native purple ferns produce a natural fungicide," she explained to Gregory as they worked through the night. "When Earth plants grow alongside them, they absorb small amounts through the soil network. Can we extract it and create a spray?" Gregory asked, fighting exhaustion. Zara shook her head. "Too weak when separated from the living plant, but I have another idea." She showed him samples of her skin cells under the microscope. "The black vine incident changed my cellular structure. My skin naturally produces compounds similar to the fungicide in the purple ferns." Gregory looked up in surprise. "You think your condition might hold the key?" "It's possible." Zara brushed her black hand across a wilting test plant. To their amazement, within hours the infected areas began to recover. "My skin literally repels the fungus," she whispered. "The same adaptation that changed my appearance could potentially save the colony." They worked frantically through the second day, synthesizing a treatment based on the unique properties of Zara's skin cells. By dawn of the third day, they had a promising formula but needed to test it on a larger scale. They won't let us near their fields, Gregory said. Not until we prove it works. Zara looked out the window at the thin line of smoke rising from the northern farms. Despite the order to wait, some farmers had started burning their crops in panic. Then we need to show them undeniable results, she said. Something they can't ignore. That evening, they loaded sprayer equipment onto Gregory's truck. As the third day's deadline approached, they headed for Warren's farm, the largest operation in the colony and now heavily infected with the blight. This is trespassing, Gregory warned as they parked at the edge of Warren's property. If we're caught, we won't save the colony by following rules, Zara replied, handing him a spray tank. Sometimes you have to break them to do what's right. As darkness fell, they slipped into the infected fields, applying their treatment to half of Warren's dying wheat crop. They worked quickly, knowing discovery would mean immediate expulsion from New Harvest. Now we wait, Zara said as they finished. By morning, we'll know if it works. Gregory reached for her hand in the darkness, his fingers intertwining with hers. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. He paused. This stopped being just a business arrangement for me a long time ago. Zara felt warmth spread through her chest, despite the cool night air. For me too, she admitted quietly. They stood together at the edge of the field, looking up at the unfamiliar stars of their new home. Tomorrow would either vindicate their work or end everything they had built together. They won't listen to me, Zara said softly. Not looking like this. Gregory turned to face her, his expression visible in the moonlight. Then we'll make them see beyond appearances. He gently touched her cheek. I already have. Zara woke before sunrise, her heart racing with both hope and worry. Today would determine everything. Their future on New Harvest, the fate of the colony's crops, and whether her difference would finally be seen as valuable rather than frightening. Ready? Gregory asked, appearing in the doorway of her room. He looked tired but determined. They drove to Warren's farm just as the first light broke over the horizon. Parking at a distance, they used binoculars to observe the test field they had secretly treated the night before. Look, Gregory whispered, passing the binoculars to Zara. The difference was clear even from far away. The untreated half of Warren's wheat field remained gray-brown and withered. But the treated section stood tall with healthy green stalks, the blight spots fading from the leaves. It worked, Zara breathed, joy filling her voice. The treatment worked. Gregory squeezed her shoulder. We need to tell everyone before more fields are burned. They drove quickly to the colony center, where farmers were gathering for the final decision on burning the infected crops. Administrator Powell stood on the steps of the government building preparing to address the crowd. Administrator, Gregory called out, pushing through the gathering with Zara close behind. We have news about the blight. Powell frowned at the interruption but gestured for them to join her. Dr. Washington, Mr. Daniels, I hope you have results to share. The situation has worsened overnight. We've developed a treatment, Zara announced, her voice clear and confident despite the suspicious stares from the crowd. And we've tested it successfully. Murmurs spread through the gathered farmers. Charles Warren pushed his way to the front, his face dark with anger. Tested it where? He demanded. No one would let you experiment on their crops. Gregory stepped forward. We can show you the results right now, on your farm, Warren. The crowd fell silent. Warren's face turned red. You trespassed on my land? That's illegal. So is letting an entire colony starve when there's a solution, Gregory replied calmly. Come see for yourself. Anyone who wants proof can follow us. A tense standoff followed, broken when Powell nodded firmly. I want to see these results. Everyone interested can join our convoy. 20 minutes later, a line of vehicles parked along the edge of Warren's wheat field. Farmers and officials stepped out, gathering in a silent group as they stared at the stark difference between the two halves of the field. The left side was treated with our formula, Zara explained. The right side was left as a control. Warren pushed through, his mouth open in shock as he saw his crops, half destroyed by blight, half recovering in green. "What did you do to my wheat?" "We saved it," Gregory said simply, using science that only became possible because of Zara's unique condition. Zara stepped forward, holding up her black hands for all to see. "The treatment is derived from compounds my skin produces naturally, after my exposure to alien plant enzymes. The same biological adaptation that changed my appearance gives me immunity to certain fungal infections, including this blight. You expect us to spray our food with something made from her?" one farmer asked, gesturing at Zara's black skin. "No," Gregory replied firmly. "We've synthesized the active compound. It's completely safe and effective, and it's the only thing that will save your crops." Powell studied the field carefully. "The results are undeniable. How quickly can you produce enough treatment for all affected farms?" Before Zara could answer, Warren stepped between them. "This is exactly what I warned about. First they bring alien plants to our colony, then alien infected people, and now they want us to contaminate our crops with their experiments." He turned to face the crowd. "Are we going to let these outsiders change everything about how we farm? Everything our families have done for generations?" Several farmers nodded in agreement, but Powell raised her hand. "Warren, look at your field. Would you rather hold on to old ways and watch your crops die, or try something new and save them?" "There has to be another solution," Warren insisted. "There isn't," Zara said quietly. "Not in time. The blight will destroy 80% of the colony's food supply within 2 weeks, according to our models. And the treatment needs to be applied within the next 3 days to be most effective." The farmers looked at each other, weighing tradition against survival. Powell turned to Zara and Gregory. "How much treatment can you produce, and how quickly?" "With help, enough for the entire colony within 48 hours, Gregory answered. "We've prepared our greenhouse facility for production." Powell nodded, decisively. "Then that's what we'll do. I'm declaring a colony emergency and authorizing immediate production of this treatment." Warren's face twisted with rage. "You can't do this." "I can, and I am," Powell replied firmly. "Anyone who wishes to refuse treatment for their crops may do so, but they will not receive emergency rations if their harvest fails." She turned to the crowd. "Now, who will volunteer to help with production?" To Zara's surprise, several hands went up. More followed as farmers looked again at the clear evidence in Warren's field. "Your farm will serve as colony headquarters until the crisis passes," Powell told Zara and Gregory. "I'll send support staff and supplies immediately." Within hours, their quiet farm had transformed into a bustling operations center. Volunteers worked in shifts, producing the treatment under Zara's supervision while Gregory organized distribution teams. For 3 days, they barely slept, coordinating the massive effort to save New Harvest's food supply. On the evening of the 3rd day, as the last treatment teams returned from the fields, Zara stood on the porch of their house, watching the sunset. Gregory joined her, his face showing exhaustion but satisfaction. "Every infected field has been treated," he said, leaning against the railing beside her. "Now we wait to see the results." "Administrator Powell said the early reports are promising," Zara replied. "The blight is already retreating on the first farms we treated." Gregory turned to face her. "You saved this colony, Zara. They can't ignore that, no matter how you look." She smiled slightly. "Maybe, but I couldn't have done it without your support." She paused, then added softly, "Or your faith in me when no one else had any." Gregory reached out, gently taking her black hand in his. "In the beginning, I married you for your knowledge. But now..." Zara felt her heart quicken. Now I wish it were a real marriage," he admitted. "These past weeks working beside you, getting to know you. My feelings have changed." Before Zara could respond, they heard vehicles approaching. Powell's official transport pulled up, followed by several other cars. The administrator stepped out along with members of the Colony Council. "Dr. Washington, Mr. Daniels," Powell called out. "The council has made a decision regarding your status in the colony." Zara and Gregory exchanged worried glances. Despite their success with the treatment, they had broken colony rules by trespassing on Warren's land. Punishment could still include expulsion. "We've come to formally thank you," Powell continued, "and to offer you both permanent citizenship status with special research privileges." One of the council members stepped forward, an older woman who had previously avoided looking directly at Zara. "Your treatment has saved our harvest. The council votes unanimously to establish a new research division focused on Earth-alien crop integration, with both of you as joint directors." Zara stood speechless, overwhelmed by this complete reversal. Gregory's hand tightened around hers. "There's one condition," Powell added. "You'll need to share your methods openly with all colony farmers." "We accept," Gregory replied immediately. "That's all we wanted from the beginning." As the officials departed, promising to return with formal documentation the next day, Gregory turned back to Zara. The setting sun cast golden light across their experimental fields where Earth crops and alien plants grew together in harmony. "You never answered my question," he said softly. Zara looked up at him, her black skin glowing warmly in the fading light. "About a real marriage?" Gregory nodded, suddenly looking nervous. "Yes," Zara said simply. "I would like that very much." As darkness fell over New Harvest, they stood together on the porch of their shared home, no longer outsiders but valued members of the community. And for the first time since her accident, Zara felt that her transformation had led her exactly where she needed to be. 2 years had passed since the Great Blight Crisis. New Harvest Colony had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Zara stood at the edge of the main research field, watching as a transport ship descended from the clear blue sky. The quarterly supply vessel also brought new settlers and visitors to the thriving colony. Zara's black skin gleamed in the sunlight as she shielded her eyes to watch the landing. Once a source of rejection and isolation, her unique appearance had become a familiar sight throughout the colony. Children no longer stared, and new arrivals were quickly told the story of how Dr. Daniels with the special skin had saved their food supply. Gregory joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. Their professional partnership had blossomed into a genuine marriage, defying the arrangement that had first brought them together. "The Earth delegation has arrived," he said, checking his data tablet. "Including Dr. Morgan, the director who approved your original expedition to study the black vine." Zara tensed slightly. "The one who buried my research after the accident. He wants to apologize. Apparently, hiding your breakthrough cost Earth colonies 2 years of agricultural advancement." Gregory smiled. "He also mentioned their naming the adaptive genetic sequence after you, the Washington Protocol for Xenobiological Integration." Zara looked out over the thriving fields where Earth crops and alien plants grew in harmony, much like her own adapted biology. What had once marked her as an outsider had ultimately revealed a path forward for all of humanity. "Ready to meet them?" Gregory asked. Zara nodded, and they walked together toward the colony center where the new arrivals would gather. The path took them past farms that had once grown only Earth crops in neat, separate rows. Now most fields showed the distinctive mixed planting style that Zara had pioneered. Earth wheat growing alongside purple alien ferns, corn interspersed with local vines that helped provide natural pest control. Charles Warren stood in his field as they passed. The once hostile farmer had been among the last to adopt the new methods, but even he had eventually seen the results were impossible to deny. He nodded stiffly to them, not friendly but respectful. "Never thought I'd see that," Gregory whispered as they walked on. The colony center buzzed with activity. New Harvest had grown to 3 times its previous size, becoming the agricultural hub for this sector of space. Ships from other colonies regularly arrived seeking training in the integration techniques that had made their farms so productive. Administrator Powell greeted them at the landing area. "Dr. Daniels?" she said warmly, addressing Zara with the name she had taken after her real marriage to Gregory. "The Earth Science Council representatives are eager to meet you." A group of officials in formal Earth uniforms stood nearby. One man stepped forward, Dr. Victor Morgan, who had once been Zara's supervisor before her accident. His eyes widened when he saw her, though he tried to hide his reaction to her black skin. "Dr. Washington, I mean Dr. Daniels," he said, extending his hand. "It's been a long time." Zara shook his hand firmly. "Yes, it has." "Your work here is remarkable," Morgan continued. "The reports we've received show crop yields 300% higher than traditional farming methods. Every colony in the sector wants to implement your techniques." "Our techniques," Zara corrected, glancing at Gregory. "My husband is the true farmer. I just provide the science." Morgan nodded. "Well, the Science Council has sent me to personally offer you a position as head xenobotanist for all Earth colonies. You would have your own research vessel, staff, unlimited funding." 2 years ago, such an offer would have seemed like an impossible dream. Zara thought about how much had changed since she had arrived on New Harvest as an unwanted bride with strange black skin. "That's very generous," she replied, "but my work is here. We're just beginning to understand the full potential of human-alien integration." Morgan looked disappointed, but not surprised. "The council thought you might say that. That's why we're prepared to establish a xenobotanical institute right here on New Harvest, with you as the director. All the resources you need brought to you." Powell, who had been listening, stepped forward eagerly. "That would bring considerable prestige and economic benefits to our colony." Later that evening, after meetings and discussions about the new institute, Zara and Gregory returned home. Their house had expanded along with their work, now including a personal laboratory and additional living space. But they still preferred to sit on the original porch each evening, watching the sunset over their first experimental fields. "You could have taken the position on Earth," Gregory said as they settled into their usual spots. "Returned as the recognized expert you always deserved to be." Zara smiled, her black hand contrasting with his as their fingers intertwined. "There's nothing for me there anymore. Everything I need is here." A small voice called from inside the house. Gregory smiled and went to the door, returning moments later with a sleepy 3-year-old girl in his arms. Their adopted daughter Lily had come to them a year earlier, an orphan child from another colony who had been born with a rare genetic condition that gave her skin a bluish tint. "Mama," Lily said, reaching for Zara with complete comfort. Seeing nothing strange in her mother's black skin, Zara took the child in her arms, feeling the familiar surge of love. She and Gregory had decided to adopt after discovering that the changes to her biology made natural pregnancy unlikely. When they'd heard about a child with skin differences who needed a home, it had seemed like fate. "Tell me the star story," Lily murmured, nestling against Zara's shoulder and pointing to the evening sky where the first stars were appearing. "People are like stars," Zara began, telling the bedtime story she had created for her daughter. "Each, one unique and special in their own way. Some people think stars that look different aren't as beautiful, but that's because they don't understand that every star has its own special light to share." Gregory sat beside them, his arm around Zara's shoulders as she continued the story. Through the open door they could see the communication console blinking with new messages. More colonies asking for their help, more research to be done, more people wanting to learn from them. Life had taken Zara on an unexpected journey, from respected scientist to outcast, from mail-order bride to colony savior, from lonely outsider to beloved wife and mother. Her black skin, once a mark of isolation, had become a symbol of humanity's potential to adapt and thrive in new environments. As darkness fell completely and the stars filled the alien sky, Zara looked at her family and the home they had built together. She thought about the frightened woman who had stepped off the transport ship years ago, rejected for her color until one man had seen beyond appearances to the person within. "What are you thinking about?" Gregory asked softly as Lily drifted to sleep in Zara's arms. "How sometimes the things that make us different are exactly what make us valuable," she replied. "And how finding the right place to belong changes everything." Gregory smiled and leaned over to kiss her cheek. "Their loss," he whispered, echoing words he'd said when they first met. "My ideal." Zara leaned her head against his shoulder. peace with her place in the universe. New Harvest had become more than a colony to her. It was a home where both she and humanity's future could flourish among the stars.